Futuristic 2020 flow that you hearing now. Past 2025, but I'm hearing now. VR techno up in the audio. And my mind still stuck in 2040 though. Game Boy in a hologram presentation. Button pressing, chasing the shine on my levitation. Coding animation flow, lacing on Nintendo, Sega, Mega, the Xbox to play a station. Alright, look, this is what I want you to do, alright? For you to continue playing the game, I need you to insert coins. Get your tokens up. Alright, speed it up a little more. Speed it up, speed it up. Tempo. Game. About is who you are upon the planet as it rotates.
YouTube. Welcome to the webinar as we collaborate with Customer Service Week initiatives titled Service, the Power of Service. Thank you. Maybe before I begin, let me start by requesting if there is any objection from the audience, if we should open with a word of prayer. Can we bow our heads and pray? Baba wethu engcwele, siyabonga Nkosi ukuthi namhla sosiphila isikhathi ukuthi sibe la phambi kwakho. Ndodethu sisakhuluma lana namuhla. Lolwadi lesilethako sicela ukuthi lube lwadi lolumqoka futhi nalutawuletha lushintsho esiveni seMaswati. Siside ke Nkosi ukuthi konke lesikwendako wena ube phakathi kwethu usilondolote sithi saphuma lana siphephe ngegama lika Jesu Kristu. Amen. Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe just to give a little bit of background. Today we are here to discuss alternative dispute resolutions as conducted by the various organizations that are going to be introduced here today. We, as the Eswatini Competition Commission, together with the Ombudsman of Financial Services, are responsible for various mandates, including consumer protection in our specific sectors and mandates. And because of that, we find that there are sometimes disputes that we have to resolve between consumers and traders. And we know that alternative dispute resolutions assist because they provide an efficient and a speedy resolution for consumers. The organizations here today also have a big vested interest in ensuring that consumers are protected. And as I introduce them, I'm sure, and as we continue with our program, that is going to be clear. At this point, maybe I'd like to say Before I continue that, here with us today, we have the CEO of Eswatini Competition Commission, Mr. Muzi Dlamini, the Ombudsman of Financial Services, Ms. Nondumiso Simelane. We have the Ombudsman of the Central Bank, Refilio Mamohobo. We have the CEO of SWASA, Mr. Mavela Vilane, and Dr. Oliver Museka from IRDM. We also have from the Competition Commission, Ms. Tembelihle Dlamini, as well as from CMAC, Mr. Nsindiso Twala. We are all welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ayanda Ziane. I'm the Consumer Protection Manager at Eswatini Competition Commission. I am part of the operational team that was responsible for today's webinar, together with some of my teammates from Eswatini Competition Commission, as well as the Ombudsman of Financial Services. I am also the program director and the moderator, and today I am the law. Mhlambe sebangano thalabadzala ukuthi power goes to my head. Ndawucela ke ukuthi mhlambe next thing housekeeping ndawucela ukuthi nibe directed accordingly ngala ngephandle batasita ukuthi sihamba njani for our facilities. Ndawucela ukuthi we silence our laptops and our cell phones so that as we continue we do not disturb panelists in the discussions. Cinema sanitizers etfu matafuleni, please make use of them frequently as you will be touching surfaces and substances. Sizamile kwenda distancing. I think we are successful. And we keep our masks on, particularly when we are close together. But I think for making presentations and or deliberations, momentarily so that we ensure that we follow COVID regulations. I'd just like to note, we are going to be recording this session as it's going to be broadcast live on Facebook and on YouTube. On a last note, there's something that my children say. It's a joke, but for me it took a while to understand or to get. So they say, scenario, there is a burglar. He burglarizes a house. He finds an old lady sitting on her couch. And he says, I'm here to rob you, and if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to kill you. And the old lady says, but you can't kill me. Taken aback, the burglar says, why not? And then she says, because I'm in the living room. You guys got it quicker than I did. I guess for me that lesson was, sometimes in life we may be facing various circumstances, but what's important is how we react. In this story, we are not told whether or not the lady died or whether or not the burglar was taken aback, but I'm sure it took him a few seconds to think about that sentence. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Mr. Muzi Dlamini for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Program Director, the Ombudsman of the Financial Services, Ms. Nondumiso Simelane, Customer Services Advocate, Dr. Oliver Museka, Mr. Mavela Vilane, Executive Director of Eswatini Standards Authority, Ms. Refilwe Mamohobo, Ombudsman of Financial Institutions at the Central Bank of Eswatini, representative of the Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration Commission, Ms. Tembelihle Dlamini, Legal Advisor at the Eswatini Competition Commission, esteemed business representatives joining us virtually, representatives of media houses, customers joining virtually, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending and welcome. As the program director mentioned, my name is Muzi Dlamini and I am CEO of the Eswatini Competition Commission. First, I would like to appreciate the efforts made by all institutions in organizing the event, and also appreciate our panelists for taking time off their busy schedule to be with us here today. Media houses and consumers for honoring our invitation. The Eswatini Competition Commission is a public enterprise established to ensure fair competition and consumer welfare. As you might be aware, the Commission has a dual mandate to ensure a competitive and fair business environment, as well as protecting consumer welfare. I am personally excited about today's discussions and look forward to the panel sharing with us alternative dispute resolution mechanisms used by the various organizations represented here today. The Commission, specifically when dealing with consumer cases, employs mediation and negotiation to resolving disputes between customers and businesses. Now, this allows matters to be timelessly resolved, and also provides a platform to educate businesses about consumer rights and responsibilities as part of our advocacy mandate. Alternative dispute resolution mechanisms are critical in order to increase citizens' access to relief should they feel that they have been treated unfairly. The Commission continues to successfully employ dispute resolution to resolve a number of cases that come before the institution from consumers from all walks of life. Information about our alternative dispute resolution mechanisms are shared through our various communication platforms, including regular engagements we have with communities across the country. Now, as an institution, we can confidently declare that alternative dispute resolution has assisted the Commission in reducing the turnaround times and costs of resolving various consumer complaint cases. In summary, as an institution, alternative dispute resolution has played a significant role in our ability to advocate for consumers and empower them to exercise their rights. Empowered by the Competition Act and Fair Trading Act of 2001, the Commission has, through dispute resolution, ensured that any unfair trade practices are appropriately addressed. As an example, for the current year, 17 of the 26 consumer cases reported to us have been resolved by way of alternative dispute resolution. Now, more will be shared during the course of the discussion. I thank you.
Thank you, Nkosi. Maybe at this point, I'd like to ask Ms. Mrs. Melanie to come and give her opening remarks.
Good morning, all the respective institutions, organizations, members of the populace in the economy of Eswatini, accessing and participating with us here this morning through respective points of social media. We are an office, the Office of the Ombudsman of Financial Services. We find our existence from the Financial Services Regulatory Authority Act, and as the theme of our webinar today, the power of service, we also pride ourselves in actually practicing dispute resolution mechanisms that are alternative to the ones that can be described as traditional, that we know have experienced through the courts. And with our case, it is actually legislative mandate of the office to resolve disputes in the non-bank financial services sector in a manner that the legislation describes as quickly and with minimum formality. So today, this morning, together with our sister and brother institutions, we are going to be sharing a bit more and widely on how our respective organizations actually facilitate your experiencing the duty of resolving disputes in manner alternative to maybe the formalities that may have experiences with through the courts. So with just these few remarks, please do feel welcome to be part of today's discussions this morning. I thank you.
Thank you, Ombudsman of Financial Services. As we proceed with our agenda, we are going to start with our panel discussions. We may from time to time be addressing questions that are coming from possibly Facebook and YouTube, but we are going to be able to do it in an orderly fashion. At this point, I would like to welcome Mr. Sipho Smelane to come and lead the panel discussions.
Good morning everyone. All standing on protocol already observed, I'm Sipho Smelane. I am the lead adjudicator with the Office of the Ombudsman of Financial Services, and we are happy to have you here. Now, to kick off this segment, we will just deal with brief profiles and introductions of our panelists, so that the audience can appreciate who you are and where you come from, and concisely what your organizations or institutions do, so that they can relate and have information to relate with. I'll be guiding you through those introductions so that we do them in an orderly fashion. The first institution to introduce itself will be Competition Commission. You have a mic in front of you. Ms. Beneficiary, let's concisely introduce yourself and the organization.
Beneficiary, and I'm the legal advisor and company secretary of the Eswatini Competition Commission. I'm attorney and an admitted attorney with 13 years experience, 10 years of which have been with the commission. Yes, and basically the Competition Commission, as my CEO has mentioned, is an institution which was created to promote competition, to promote business environment, as well as promoting consumer welfare. So our function is twofold: that of promoting competition as well as that of addressing consumer issues, which is where we then mostly use our ADR processes. Thank you.
Thank you. Opening remarks, but for purposes of protocol, just a concise introduction, Ombudsman, who you are and what your organization does.
Thank you, Program Director. Thank you, Sipho. Again, I am Nondumiso Smelane, and together with colleagues, we are serving the populace of the Kingdom of Eswatini from the Office of the Ombudsman of Financial Services. That office actually has a legislative mandate to resolve disputes quickly and with minimum formality. So in the main, when we resolve these disputes, we ensure to use processes including facilitating settlements where it is possible, conciliating possible settlements as well, or indeed going through the process of mediating a settlement. But if these processes that achieve settlement are not successful, then the law enjoins us to, with stated in writing reasons, issue out a decision that we term a determination. And our consideration there is fairness and reasonableness. So I am one of our colleagues serving there. We are just tapping into our 6th year this year, serving the populace of the Kingdom of Eswatini in alternative dispute resolution. I thank you.
Thank you, Ombudsman. The next panelist to introduce himself is Mr. Twala from CMAC.
Good morning, my esteemed panelists, and to the team and our online audience. I'm Sindiso Twala. I am an employment relations practitioner and with over 15 years experience in the labor field. I've been a litigator in the courts, also has been playing an ADR, alternative dispute resolution role, as an arbitrator and conciliator at CMAC for a number of years, over 5, and which I continue to do now. And I've also been representing employers through in my former life, in my time with Business Eswatini, being the director there of industrial relations and company secretary there. Business Eswatini is the former Federation of Swaziland Employers and Chamber of Commerce, so I was responsible for representing employers in negotiations, in tripartite forums, in employment tripartite forums such as the Labour Advisory Board, and internationally to the point of even the ILO. And right now I am also working, so right now I am with CMAC, especially as a part-time commissioner and also as their trainer, training consultant. Thank you. And with regard to introductions of CMAC, it's an organization I'm very passionate with. That's why it's the Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration Commission, and from that you can just tell that we are fully alternative dispute resolution. All our processes are definitely there. We look forward to talking more about this, and we look forward to learning from all our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Mshiva. And then the next panelist to introduce himself is Mr. Vilane from the Eswatini Standards Authority.
Good morning, my esteemed panelists. Good morning to the program leaders, directors, the CEO of the Competition Commission, our participants from the various platforms. My name is Mavela Wilson Vilane. I come from an organization called Eswatini Standards Authority, SWASA. I am very passionate about, business process improvement, so that, we do it voluntarily as opposed to doing it in the legal realm of things.
So Eswatini Standards Authority is a parastatal under the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, which was established through the Standards and Quality Act number 10 of 2003. It's an organization that whose main mandate is to promote the use of standards and quality in all facets of or aspects of our life as a country, be it in the topic that we are going to be discussing here today. There is a standard in actual fact for everything that you want to do or you endeavor to undertake as an individual or as an organization in everything that you want to do. So Eswatini Standards Authority is the national standards body of the Kingdom of Eswatini. And we subscribe to the International Organization for Standardization, which is ISO. And we also are affiliated to the International Accreditation Forum. These are all international bodies who promote excellence in the field of standardization and conformity assessment, where we find ourselves playing. So with reference to today's discussion, I think SWASA comes in from encouraging organizations as they are dealing with their customers to voluntarily aspire to eliminate all forms of discomfort that may lead to customer complaints and ultimately to disputes in the voluntary space before then they can be referred to other institutions in the event that they actually then escalate to being disputes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Villane. The next panelist to introduce himself is Dr. Musega from IRDM.
Thank you, Program Director. Esteemed panelist, CEO Competitions Commission. My name is Oliver Musega. I'm a customer service advocate, business consultant. Very passionate when it comes to issues to do with customer service. I think it makes my blood tick. And I'm so happy to be part of the panelists to speak about alternative dispute resolution, which mainly arise from bad customer service. I represent an organization called IRDM, the Institute of Research Management Development, which is a channel partner of the Chartered Institute of Customer Management, an institute that advocates for good customer service. We've been advocating for customer service in the country for the past 6 years through commemoration of the Customer Service Week and running of various events just to conscientize the nation on the importance of customer service. We also have opportunities the way the general public, they approach us. We are not a regulator of any sort, but we're just advocates. But we've got cases where customers approach us and they indicate to us the challenge that they are facing and meeting as they work with different organizations. So what we do is, as consultants as well, we also engage organizations to say, we're having complaints and this is what is coming from customers. How best can we assist you? Or what is it that you can do to mitigate the challenges that you're facing, and what also fulfilling the expectations of the customers. So that's the part that we come in alternative dispute resolution to represent both the employer and the business and the customer. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Doctor. Then our last panelist is the Ombudsman within the Central Bank of Eswatini, Ms. Rifilwe.
Thank you, Program Director, and good morning, everyone. My name is Rifilwe Mamohubo. I am an admitted attorney, admitted conveyancer, and an admitted notary public. I work for the Central Bank, where I wear 3 hats. I'm the head of legal, I'm the board secretary, and I'm also the ombudsman at the Central Bank. The Ombudsman is an office that exists in the Central Bank, but is an independent and impartial office that deals with complaints, primarily complaints between customers, bank customers, and banks. It's And we also assist individuals and small business people who have complaints, in particular in relation to bank service or bank products. We are an office that does not offer legal advice in respect of bank products or financial services or investments and information like that. But we sit down around the table and assist banks with their customers to find common ground. We strive to be independent and impartial, as I've already said, and we resolve disputes professionally. And we also promote mutual trust between banks and customers, and we let the banks and the customers to run that process where we sit down around the table. We try and make the process as friendly as possible, and we encourage the process to be conducted in both English and Siswati. We receive complaints through the various forums that are possible, including electronic media. We even encourage complaints to be written in Siswati and also to be handwritten. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Ombudsman. Welcome our panelists to a live webinar of the Power of Service discussion. Let's call it a discussion. It's to remind our audience and the panelists that this event is being published live on the Ombudsman of Financial Services Facebook page as well as YouTube. Therefore, we are expecting interaction from a live audience, which will then enhance and enrich the discussions that we will have. This segment of the program is a panel discussion. It is not presentations, it's a panel discussions. It is aimed at now contextualizing this thing that everyone calls an ADR and how it applies in your institution. Now, as each panelist addresses this particular segment, you will be given at least 5 minutes to make that concise, impactful contextualization of this topic. And then most importantly, this is Customer Service Week. We want to know how this monster you call an ADR serves the customer and how it enriches a customer experience within your institutions. Now, in your introductions, I noted that most of us here are government parastatals. Therefore, we may not have customers in your traditional sense. So it's also important that in your concise address, you at least give us an impression of who you consider a customer and how you best serve that particular customer as you dispatch your mandate. Now, to guide this particular segment, I will also be identifying a particular panelist and then giving them the opportunity to address us on it. Now, the first panelist to take the podium will be, of course, the Ombudsman of Financial Institutions. That's within the central bank. Now, you remember the guidance that I've given. You contextualize your ADR, you identify your customer base, and then you demonstrate how ADR assists a customer experience within the Central Bank of Eswatini.
Thank you and good morning once again. I will try and stick to the script that you've given me. It's always better to be the last. You're able to copy from those that present before you. Our customer is the Ombudsman of Financial Services, is every banking customer. Whether you have a bank account with a particular bank or you've accessed a particular product with that bank, you are what we call our customer. We encourage complaints to be written, and we have various medias that we receive the complaints as I've stated in my introduction. It could either be handwritten and hand delivered, it could be mailed, it could be emailed, and we do not have a specific format that we require you to submit the complaint, for the specific reason that we want our service to be easily accessible. We feel that if we define how you write your complaint and submit it to us, or if we design a specific form, it might limit the way in which you are able to then state the complaint that you have with your bank. So what we expect is that you just tell the story, attach those documents that will assist you, and then we expect you to tell us what you expect the Ombudsman to help you with, or alternatively tell us what you want the bank to do. We will then share your complaint with the bank, and our turnaround time is normally 7 days, where we share the complaint with the bank, and we expect the bank to respond to that complaint in writing. Sometimes we're able to resolve the dispute at that point, where we receive the response from the bank and we communicate it to the customer, and the customer is satisfied with that response. However, we have instances where when we receive that response from the customer will say they are not satisfied with the response and will want to engage further. We then convene what we call a case conference, where we have the parties sitting around the table, and we discuss the matter. I must add that this service is a free service. We do not encourage the attendance of attorneys. We do, however, allow a complainant to be assisted by a family member or someone who can articulate the facts better. And we also, on the side of the banks, we only allow lawyers who work for the organization, for the bank rather, to attend. We do not allow the bank to then engage an external attorney. We sit around the table and we try and reach an agreement. We will reach an agreement by either mutual agreement. Sometimes we even give guidance if it appears that this is a matter that was not really a dispute, but the parties just needed to sit around the table and find each other. In a nutshell, that is how we provide our service. Thank you.
Thank you, Ombudsman. There was the segment of how the customer is assisted and furthered in that process, being Customer Week.
Oh, thank you. I missed that. Yes, we say the customer is assisted. This is a free service. It's easy to access, as I've stated, that we do not have red tape around how you access the service. It is also assists the customers in the sense that it is fast when you compare it with other services, including litigation, where this matter can drag on for a very long time. Sometimes you will have a customer approaching you to say, my bank account has been frozen, I don't know why that has been done, and I'm unable to live my normal life. I'm unable to access my account and do my daily business. In that instance, we will not even give the bank 7 days to respond to us. We normally give them 24 hours to explain to us why that account has been frozen, and we sit down. And I must say, I pride myself in that we are able to assist. Sometimes you find that it's just a simple matter of KYC, but that customer was unable to get the explanation when they approached that reception or help desk at the bank, such that now the account was frozen. I hope I've answered your question, Program Director. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ombudsman. Now we will move on to the next panelist to address us, CMAC. 5 minutes. Those 3 guidance points.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Smelane. So with us, as I said earlier, that the name of our institution just is fully loaded with the process, the 3 main processes that we have, and that is conciliation, mediation, and arbitration. But before that, I'll just say, I stand to be corrected, but I believe that as CMAC, we are possibly the first legislated mandatory ADR process. There are processes that already have exist. For example, if we're going to go to our traditional Swazi law and custom, Gnemabandla, you know, in they still use ADR. But I think from a legislative point of view, and being a mandatory process, we might just be one of the first few institutions. Now, CMAC operates in everything that is employment relations. As long as there's an employment relationship and there's a dispute that arises from there, CMAC is the one that will have jurisdiction together. It's a specialized institution established by the Industrial Relations Act of 2000. And so this is the law that also establishes a special the Industrial Court of Eswatini and in the Industrial Court of Appeal. And in that line of dispute resolution, we are the first point of contact in the event anyone has a dispute arising from the employment relationship. And what was the reason that CMAC was established? We have to just look at what happens in the courts, that it's expensive because you need to have someone to represent you, and by someone to represent you, it's someone who will draft the court papers in a manner that would be acceptable to the courts, and therefore that brings an expense. Secondly, it is also the courts, as the industrial court stands right now, it's only up here in Babane. There's nowhere where any person would have any relief if they live in the Lubombo region, in Shiselweni, or even further up in Pikspik. So that's also another reason, just to give access to customers. I mean, the people who have grievances that arise from the employment relationship. And lastly, what happens is the litigation process is a very long process. I mean, if you were to look at the court roll right now, you wouldn't be surprised if you were to see cases that are 10 years old. They've still not gone to trial. So for those three main reasons, CMAC, it was decided that we should have an alternative dispute resolution process or institution that is an alternative to your normal litigation. Now, where I said this is a mandatory process, the first and main process of CMAC is conciliation. And I believe that's a word that's taken from the English word reconciliation, to try and reconcile people who are in a dispute. Who are the people that we serve? Who can bring a dispute from an employment relationship? It is obviously an employee usually, and then you have your employer. An employer can bring a dispute as well. You also have representatives of these two, which can be a trade union. It can also be a business organization like your federations of employers like Business Eswatini. And you can have also job applicants, someone who's not been satisfied with the process of within a recruitment process can also bring in a dispute as well. So in terms of who are our customers. Now, in terms of how we do it, we have within 18 months of a dispute arising from that employment, from the employment relationship, you have the opportunity to report that dispute. And 85% of all disputes that arise from the workplace generally should go to CMAC. Any dispute, the few exceptions, especially in terms of your urgent applications to the court, one of the things that you have to address when you take that matter to court is to say, why should you not take the matter to CMAC? And usually it's because of urgency. Someone would say, it's a fly by night, I'll lose my money. Someone will say, I'm prejudiced because already a decision has been taken and I'm affected. So, but you have to address the issue of why are you not going through the normal process of dispute resolution. Then, so that's the main process. Just to end, then the other process is arbitration. This one is a voluntary process. You have a choice either to take, after conciliation has been concluded and the dispute has not been resolved, then you are given a choice either to go to court, or if both of you agree in writing, the matter can go to arbitration. I'll end there. I'll not say much about mediation because it's almost similar to conciliation, but it's got a technical element. But I think my 5 minutes is up, so I'll give an opportunity to the rest of the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Twala. There is a question from Amelia to the Ombudsman. Please clarify if the central bank ombudsman comes in after the client has raised the complaint initially with the bank and as an escalation platform, or there can be a point of first contact.
Thank you for the question. Yes, we do encourage that the customer first raises the complaint with the bank. However, we have instances where a customer can come and say, I'm not even given that chance to raise that complaint with my bank. We also accept, but we do encourage that you raise the complaint first with your bank.
Thank you, Ombudsman. Thank you, Amelia, for your question. I hope you covered. Mr. Twala, there is something I will need you to note while Tembelihle takes us through a context of ADR within the Commission. Now, importantly for Mr. Twala and the panelists is, I remember accessibility coming through your introductions, and we have a segment of our population that is either illiterate or due to certain impairments cannot read or write. So how do your organizations accommodate either illiterate people or people with disabilities and other segments of our society that generally would be excluded from the economy because of those factors? So Tembelihle, as you address me, that's another key factor that I would like you to take into account.
For us, in terms of who is our customer, our Act defines a consumer as a person who offers to purchase a good, or a person to whom a service is rendered, except for purposes of buying the good for purposes of resale, or when you want to buy the good for purposes of using it for manufacturing something. So when you're looking at this definition, it's clear that everyone is a consumer, because in one way or the other we are affected by business activity, and we are involved on a daily basis with the traders and businesses. So in a nutshell, we are all consumers. So in terms of our ADR process for consumer cases, what normally happens is that we receive a complaint from a consumer, either through an email or phone call, or they come personally in the office where they lodge their complaint. We then screen the complaint to look in terms of whether or not we have jurisdiction, whether we are the right people to address the complaint, because as you may know, here we have other regulators who have mandates within their sectors. So we have MOUs with these other regulators, whereby when you find that it's a complaint that is within their sector, we then engage them and then decide who is best suited to deal with the matter. So, for instance, if we find out it's the Ombudsman side, then we will hand over the matter to them and then they'll proceed. But if it's a matter that is within our mandate and our jurisdiction, we then call the respondent. We normally write a letter, call the respondent. We then engage both the respondent and the consumer and assist them in terms of reaching an agreement in terms of the appropriate remedy depending on the nature of the complaint. And it then depends on the attitude of the respondent insofar as how soon the matter can be settled. It can take a day or even a few weeks or 2 months, but we allow the respondent the opportunity to remedy the situation, particularly in the event that they want to do so. But in the event that they are not open to that, then we can then institute the formal process whereby institute the informal investigation, and then the matter will be referred to our board, which is the adjudicative body. Our board plays a dual function, that of policy governance as well as adjudicating over the cases that the Secretariat brings before them. So a decision of the board is final and it can be appealed at the High Court. So in terms of how this, our processes assist the consumers is that obviously it is cheap and it's simpler because it doesn't involve a formal process of written documents, exchange of documents, but the consumer is able to come, explain his complaint, and then we just mediate, conciliate, and they are able to get a quicker remedy, because as we are consumers, we want to move on with our lives, so you can't be having delays like is the case in terms of the court process. So it also allows the consumer to participate in the process, be involved in the decision making, in the remedy that would be proposed, and in that way it also creates awareness to the consumer. And tomorrow when he's now going there in the market, he's more vigilant in terms of the things that he needs to look out for.
Thank you, Tembelihle. The question of accessibility to sectors, for instance, people with disabilities. How does your process extend to assist those people?
We try as much as possible to be inclusive in our process. So, which is why I said a consumer can either make a phone call, send a WhatsApp message, send an email, send an SMS, or please call me to the number that is provided. So we then get back to them. Sometimes they even write through our Facebook page. We then follow up and call them and engage them, and then depending on the nature of the circumstances, we then see how best we can engage the respondent and the complainant together in trying to resolve the matter.
Thank you for that. Mr. Twala. Yes, there was that small nugget that you had to chew a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So in terms of accessibility, for me, it will be in about 3 ways. Geographically, we have about 8 offices. You have it in Babane, Pixpic, Nhlangano, Matsapa, Manzini, and then Stegi and Simunye. Just that's in terms of people not having to come up to Mbabane, but they would still access our services in those offices. You also spoke about just in terms of the less sophisticated, less literate. Definitely, our process is, unfortunately for us, unlike the previous speakers, we do have forms, but they are user-friendly, which you have to fill up. They are both in Siswati and English, and you certainly can be assisted in terms of, since this is a free service, in terms of just filling up those forms, just in terms of telling us when did the employment relation start, does it still subsist, if it doesn't, when does it end, when did it end, how much were you earning, and what relief are you looking for. And from that time, when we accept that dispute, we are then able to and then start processing it, you know. And in that regard, we have got about, in terms of speed, we have got, our processes are timed legislatively. At conciliation, a commissioner is given 21 days within which to deal with a dispute. And at arbitration, they have 45 days within which to arbitrate, they conclude the matter, and 21 days within which to issue out their arbitration award. And then lastly, in terms of accessibility, there's the issue of also the economical aspect of it as well, that you might find that there are some people who are less financially stable, especially if you're just talking about a person who has just been dismissed from work. You know, so the services are definitely free, and for that reason, at conciliation, lawyers are not allowed except with the consent of the other party. And number two, at arbitration as well, we do not have the process of having to have those court papers, because that also increases expenses, although lawyers are allowed, but the process is not one that is similar to the court. So we are less formal in terms of how we deal with it. The control is with the commissioner. So what is important there is that it's a speedy process and it's a fair process. Those are our guiding principles. So I guess that addresses also the issue of, from that economy, we do not want to have disenfranchised people because they cannot access the service because they do not have money to pay for legal experts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Twala. Now, my next panelist has a very different mandate, and that is promoting standards within Eswatini. Now, with your appreciation of alternative dispute resolution, Mr. Vilane, how does your organization impact that particular discussion? What standards do we have in place that need to be promoted? And overall, how do they assist Lelive nalo mnotho leswakha through our different mandates?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think as a Eswatini Standards Authority, people, once they hear the name authority, they then think this person is carrying, you know, the whip to make people comply to certain, you know, standards and standards in particular. So our you know, main focus and mandate as an entity is to encourage no complaints and no disputes at all through the use of standards. So our customers, if I were to put it that way, is every organization that has a customer base. So every organization that deals with customers is a customer to SWASA. We have standards that we promote as an organization to say, as a minimum, meet all your customers' expectations. Because if you meet all your customers' expectations, then there will be no complaints, there will be no disputes at all. Within those standards, we also have standards that then say, meet and actually exceed their expectations, delight your customers. So as a minimum, every organization that deals with customers must, you know, implement a standard that goes by the name of ISO 9001 of 2015. That is a quality management system standard that says basically do it right first time. So we also, apart from encouraging organizations to implement the standards, we also certify against this standard to say organization so and so implements the standard and complies or conforms to the requirements, because you don't comply to a standard but you conform. and conforms to the requirements of this standard on a voluntary basis. So we certify them at a fee. We also certify products. As I said earlier on, there are standards for everything. Everything that you see and touch, you have a standard for that. So we certify products as an enhancer to competitiveness for organizations. So people then will tend to say, any product that fails in its performance, I buy a cellular phone, it fails me, I go and report the provider to SWASA, and SWASA is expected to do something about it. We don't chase those people away because they are still users of standards. We then look at, do we have the mandate as an organization to address this particular complaint? If that complaint was coming from a product that is certified by SWASA, say for instance, bottled water, or honey, or whatever product that has the SWASA mark of approval, and then that product fails in the market, we then have the responsibility of SWASA to confirm through tests that indeed that product does not meet the specified product requirements or specifications. And if upon conducting those tests, we do indeed find that that product does not meet the requirements, then we have the responsibility to then attend to that dispute. So what we can do following that, we can recall as the organization that is certified by SWASA, excuse me, to recall the product from the shelves, if it were in the shelves, or from wherever, if it had reached whatever stage. And we can then, as an organization, suspend and make it public that product XYZ produced by a company so and so is no longer SWASA certified or SWASA approved, based on the fact that it no longer meets the requirement of standard XYZ. So you'll be buying that product at your own choice, you see. And then we tell that person to remove the SWASA mark of quality, because the SWASA mark of quality, you will know in the past when you saw SABS in a product, it gave you that level of trust and confidence to say, this product will meet my requirements. So we then force that person. We have a legally binding contractual arrangement with our product, certified product producers, to say, in the event your product fails and we test and find that it doesn't meet those requirements, we will be forced to no longer use our mark of quality. But even before a complaint comes from a consumer, we have an obligation to do market surveillance. We go into the shops for those products that are SWASA certified. We take samples without the knowledge of the producer. We go and test them, and then if we find that those products are no longer as per the standard, then we notify the producer and say, hey, look at this, you're no longer doing things in the right way. So as I said earlier on, it's voluntary for a producer because they want to be competitive to use standards at an international level. But then you find that there are certain standards that then are made into regulations. I'll give you an example. Nowadays, you have alcohol-based hand sanitizers. So there is a regulation of the land that says alcohol-based hand sanitizers should have an alcohol content of not less than 60%. So we know we have our brothers from all walks of life. They will make dilutions and stuff like that and flood the market with this. And what is happening? You think you are sanitizing, yet you are actually not doing anything to the COVID virus that is on your head. So we have then that responsibility through the Ministry of Health to say, when people bring hand sanitizers to us to test, we may not necessarily have to charge them for that. We test them for the good of the public, for the public health and safety. And then if we find that those products do not meet the specified requirement, especially as I've made an example of alcohol-based hand sanitizers. We then refer that test to the regulator, who in this case is the Minister of Health, to then deal on the legal aspects of the of the non-compliance, because now the standard was developed by SWASA for hand sanitizers, but the regulator has made it mandatory. This is no longer a voluntary standard because it has something to do with human health, safety, and all the environment. So I think that's how far I can go for now. In terms of accessibility, unfortunately, we are thin on the ground. We only have a branch in Matapa. So we have social media presence in terms of your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your Twitter. You can send us a WhatsApp. In the past, we used to have a toll-free line, but then we, in terms of the number of calls, we realized that we're probably, not at the level where we need one, because we are not dealing with, thousands and numbers of customers. So yeah, we're trying as much as possible to have that present. But I think what is important for us where we are and what we're realizing now, there's a lot of education that needs to go through from the organization to make people aware of our mandate, our role, and how we can assist the economy going forward. So standards by nature, they can assist Eswatini in a number of ways as the country is gearing itself towards being an export-driven economy. The only way for our products and services to enter into the regional and even international markets if they are in the highest level of conformity to international standards, and SWASA is the key to that.
Thank you, Mr. Villane, for that. Ombudsman, there is a question from Precious Ngampalala. Does the Office of the Ombudsman offer a service with family disputes, with the pension fund issues of beneficiary disputes that follow once a death has occurred?
Thank you, Program Director. In fact, I will say yes if it relates to retirement, pension, or provident. Just to add to that, maybe to enlighten viewers that the products for which we resolve disputes actually relate to all non-bank financial services in the land. Your retirement, which would be provident and pension, your insurance, both long-term and short-term, your money lending offered by any money lender, from businesses to individuals to your savings and credit cooperatives, but excluding banks. Your form of credit service that you will receive through loans or purchase of products and even clothes from shops or furniture shops as well. And we also cover instances of investments, but investments that would be in respect to companies that have actually registered as public companies. So I take the latitude to be going into all that, because at the end of the day, our respective families get to be affected in all these aspects that I've just touched on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ombudsman. I hope Precious has been answered. Now, your specific question, Ombud, we are now dealing with the economy of Eswatini, where most of these industries play, and there is always an occasion that ukhanza khona ukuthi sekuyangenelana umuntu uthethe isikweleti ngiyabekisa ebhange but wasi-inshora lesikweleti nge-inshora yakho, wase sowucosheka kabi emsebentini akasakhona ikusevisa. So now you would have a labor dispute, a banking dispute, and a non-banking dispute. So how does your office then assist using the ADR lesikhuluma ngayo, and how does it then improve the experience yalelo customer? Lingadikhanzi licetha 3 months ka ombudsman kuthiwe thina sesicedzile saluhamba uya kulolo omnye ombudsman lihlale 8 months kuthiwe suka kithi saluya ka labor. So how then does your office assist that particular customer?
Thank you very much, Program Director. We have actually established working relationships agreements with some, and we are in the course of further wanting to be establishing these relationships. Some of the offices and organizations with a mandate for some dispute resolution of sorts. Here, I will say for us to have a collaborative relationship with CMAC, and this actually helps us in aspects of referring aspects of what we receive that we realize to be touching on labor relations. And our relationship with CMAC actually also helps us to serve the customer base that is widely distributed in the Kingdom of Eswatini, even to the places where we are not physically located, because in our small age, we are into our 6th year this year, we only have an office in Mbabane. So we have taken advantage of the relationship with CMAC to ask and be permitted to place our complaint forms with the territorial offices of CMAC throughout the country. We also have a working relationship with the central bank through the Office of the Ombudsman for Financial Institutions within that bank. So if in the event we do find an instance that will be so convoluted with issues in the manner that you've just exemplified, Simelani, we do find ourselves touching base with our colleagues in collaboration to actually introduce those aspects. We also have a working relationship with the Competition Commission in the event it would be a product, as viewers have already heard what the mandate of the Competition Commission is. So that is how we have gone about to ensure that our customers, or our clients as it were, actually do get to be served even through us. And then finally, I will say, when we talk to our collaborators, we actually try to see a way and a manner that is going to be best to serve and address all the issues at once. If there is a possibility of a forum that can actually address all these issues at once in the manner of their interrelatedness, we also go that route. But we would have definitely first touched base with our collaborators in the manner that we feel and perceive the complaint to actually be seeking their involvement. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ombud. My final question will go to Dr. Now, I want you to bring it home for us. You have heard how each organization approaches ADR, and as an institution that focuses on research and development, you would find that you have seen probably how this concept has developed in other countries and how we can actually improve what we have. So just take us through a growth plan, possibly, not my apologies, just take us through what you have seen contextually and how you think this concept can best be applied across the kingdom to improve what we have.
Thank you so much. It's very interesting sitting on a table with learned friends. I just realized that me and Vilani were not the only learned friends. For starters, I want to point out that business should understand that for them to exist is because of a customer. Without a customer, there is no business. So once business understands that the reason for existence is a customer, be it service provision or sale of products, there has to be a customer. Without that, there is no business. So it becomes very interesting what brings about disputes. What brings about dispute is dissatisfaction in most cases. So there is a need for understanding of satisfaction, what satisfaction is, or understanding the pillars of customer satisfaction or principles, which one, a perfect product delivered by caring people, first time and on time. We can have a product, but if it's not perfect, it's likely to cause problems. We can have a perfect product, but if it's not delivered by caring people, we are likely to see a dispute. We can have a perfect product delivered by caring people, but it's not delivered first time. Then we are likely also to meet problems or challenges. We can have a perfect product delivered by caring people first time, but not on time. That can also bring about disputes. So it's very important, or it's prudent for organizations to understand those 4 principles, to say it's a perfect product delivered by caring people, first time and on time. Secondly, we need to understand the customer expectations. We need to understand the customer expectations. We are in business, we are providing service. What are the expectations of our customers? The period or the era that we are living in an era of informed customers. By the time people come to receive your service or to purchase your product, they've already made a background search. They understand, they know what they want. They've been on the internet and they understand what they want. And when they come in, they've got a perception, they've got expectations. But now it remains to the organization now to create an experience, because a customer experience is designed. It's not something that is can be put on a blueprint. Neither can we use the same template in creation of an experience, but we design an experience. How do we design an experience? We design an experience after we've understood our customer, after we've understood the expectations of the customer. Note that we also have different types of customers that we deal with. So it is also important that we understand the different types of customers that we are dealing with, because according to levels and categories of customers, the expectations are different. We have what we call meek customers, people that are going to come in, they don't complain, they are content by the fact that they've come to your office, everything is okay with them. We've got chronic complainers, people who come in and complain. Whether you've done good, you've done bad, they are going to come in and complain. We've got abusive customers who come in and they are full of insult, they are saying this, you are trying to do this. You most of the time find the frontline officers, if it's a lady, you find they're crying or with a tissue because of an abusive customer. And don't think they're not going to buy, they're going to give you business, but they give you business after a few insults. We have what we call high roller customers, people who know what they want, money is not a problem to them. When they come in, they give you business and they observe how you treat them. When you give them bad service, they don't talk to you, they don't say anything, they just take their business elsewhere. You sit and look forward to them coming again, they never come again. I've been running with a saying that COVID-19 has done very well in terms of customer service. It also catapulting the customer centricity and making sure that companies are customer centric. We are in a period where we are saying we need to discuss the customer in the highest office of an organization, strategic level, where we have the customer at the core. Whatever we are doing, we need to empathize with the customer and put ourselves in the shoes of the customer to say how our customers going to react, or how are they going to see this. Why? You look at the products and the services that we are providing, they are the same. The products are the same. If you to touch 2 different bottles of water, the content is the same, the ingredients are the same, But what then makes a difference is the experience. When people are in contact with your service, when people are in contact with your product, what is the impression that they get? We should remember that people only become loyal customers after they've had a good experience with the product. And now with social media, it has made it even very difficult for some organizations, because if you are not keen on understanding the customers, you find yourself out of business. Now people, they don't share experiences with organizations, they share experiences on social media. They're in contact with your product and you give them bad service. They rarely give you a review, but they go and vent on social media. And before you even realize, you are out of business, because the word of mouth through social media has become very important. So it's very important also to take into cognizance the voice of the customer. Gone are the days where we have a suggestion box that has got a rust key and it's dusty, which we have for the sake of having, and we never go to it and look at it. Because now the expectations and the customer that we are dealing with has become very sophisticated and complicated. And I always say a complaint from a customer, it should be taken as a blessing to an organization. Once a customer complains, that should be taken as a blessing, and it should be something that should be taken very very seriously within the institute there. So where we stand, we stand as an advocate. Like I said, we stand as a watchdog for customer service, a whistleblower, where we are saying we go to the public and want to understand the perception of the general public with different organizations. We have programs that we've unpacked that we run, especially during this month of October, to do with customer service. We've got the Service Excellence Awards. The Service Excellence Awards, they are quite interesting, because it's about companies, but not determined by the companies, but determined by the general public. What the organization, what the general public are saying about your organization. This is where we engage the public to say, in this particular industry or in this particular area, who have given you the best service, and then they come out and speak out. We have had fight with some organizations where they come to us and say, you are trying to destroy our brand and our name because we don't exist, or we're not anywhere on the nominees list. We even are perplexed by what other organizations do, that they don't understand that the concept is doing right to the customer. Where people come in and say, I've got a few coins, I want you to put me on the list of nominees. The painful part is organizations, they know, they understand, and they know what they're supposed to do in order for them to get it right with customers. But people are reluctant. People take it as by the way thing. Gone are the days where we have customer service as a department that is by the corner, where you walk in and you have got a complaint, they say walk to that corner, that's a customer service department. We're living in a period where customer centricity or customer service is becoming a culture of every business, a way of doing things. And when you speak of service excellence, it's not something that people are born with to say we provide good service, but it's by habituation and training. What is it that we repeatedly do, and what training do we get towards service excellence? So where we stand as an advocate, we come in and say to the customers, what are the challenges that you are having? And then we also approach organizations to say, we getting this information from your customers. How are you looking forward to solving or sorting this mess out? Are you having challenges? Because we also come in as customer service coaches and consultants, where we're saying, let's sit down, let's look at how best you can create relations with the customer, how best you can create experiences, good and lasting experiences for customers. Like I said, a customer experience is designed. That means it's something that we need to sit down, look at, and say, we understand, we know our customers, we know our customers' expectations. What is it that we can do to please these particular customers? Yeah, maybe to note that, and maybe like Ombuds, we're only 6 years in this business of advocacy ever since we started in the kingdom. We still have some other projects that we want to unpack. We believe we're in a period of awareness, of making the organizations know that there is something that exists that is called a customer. I think we'll be moving very shortly to the next phase, which is the introduction of a customer service professionals association, where we're saying all customer service, customer experience professionals, let's sit in one room. Let's look at standards. Let's look at the good deeds. What is it that we are doing? I happen to also be part of the team that runs customer service issues in Zambia, where they've created even a WhatsApp group for customer service professionals, where if there's an issue with the ombuds, someone posts and say, Ombuds, I've seen a review somewhere, a bad review about your organization. Here it is. What are you saying? Are you guys having a challenge? As customer service professionals here, we can assist in doing so. Because remember, the major goal is to create a customer-centric kingdom. It's not competition, but it's customer centricity. At the end of the day, the person that is supposed to win is the customer. So we are looking forward to introducing a customer service professionals association. We are also working towards introducing a customer service index. Because once we have a customer service index, it becomes easier. Organizations can come in and look at themselves and say, this is where we are. Because apart from these advocates, we also do mystery shopping and surveys, customer satisfaction surveys, to understand what's happening and also to verify what people say about certain organizations. Thank you.
Thank you a lot, Doctor, for that. There is a quick question that came through our social media platforms. It will be for the Ombudsman Central Bank, Ombudsman of Financial Services, Competition Commission, and CMAC as those with a framework to dispute resolve. It pertains to prescription. What is the time frame within which someone can lodge a complaint? And if it happens that I come 20 years later with a complaint, that is still burning me, of course. How does your organization deal with it? Very, very brief, very concisely. Let's start with the Ombudsman Central Bank.
Thank you. The prescription period, according to our guidelines, is 2 years. However, we do entertain matters where we feel that there was a reason for that matter not to be reported within the 2 years. But otherwise, the prescription period is 2 years.
Thank you, Ombudsman. Tembelihle.
Yeah, in terms of our legislation, there's no prescription period, and we don't have one for now. But the challenge would be, if it's something that happened a long time ago, it would be a challenge of proving that case. So it's better to come to us as soon as the dispute ensues. Thank you.
Thank you, Tembelihle. Ombudsman.
Thank you, Program Director. Like CDE, ours is 2 years. Again, the importance there is memory loss, evidence loss. So at the end of the day, whether there is a prescription period or there's no prescription period, success resides in your being able to establish and prove your case. So it is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Ombudsman. Mr. Twala.
Thank you, Mguni. For CMAC, the legislation says it's 18 months. And if you are not satisfied or aggrieved by a decision made by the commission that your matter is prescribed, you can always take it on appeal to the industrial court. Or if you want condonation for the late submission of a matter, that application is made to the industrial court. Reasons can be, I was in prison, I was sick, then possibly the court can allow for us to receive that matter. However, it's 18 months.
Thank you, Mr. Twala. Thank you to my panelists. This is the end of at least part 1 of the panel discussions. There were questions that came through. We will park them for the next segment so that we can move our program along. And yes, thank you to our viewers who keep those comments coming.
Sipho, and to our panelists for that vibrant discussions. I think we are receiving a lot of interest on our social media pages as the questions are coming through. Some of them have been addressed as Sipho has been directing, and we are going to take some as we move along. Maybe just a recap. There's been also a recommendation ukuthi asisebenzise ulimi lwethu, and since it's a recap, I think maybe appropriate ba nje kancane ngishamba kanye. I hope kudele ngimshiya ngaphandle ngaleyo ndlela leyo ngidawuzama kungangedi lokuqashiwe ngabe sesengikhuluma sekukhona la ngayiva lokukhulunyiwe ekuqaleni. So sesikhulumile ke dikhuluma tetfu kuqale ombuds of Central Bank wakhuluma ngema ukuthi i-Central Bank Ombudsman yona ibuka uma ngabe kunekungavani kahle kuma banking services. Kusho ukuthi nasicathanisa nje na Ombuds of Financial Services yena ukhulumise ukuthi babuka lapho khona ku non banking financial services. Wabala ke ukuthi kusuke kukhulunyiswa insurance kukhulunyiswa konga nebolekisa kanye nema investments angathi ma investments kuthiwa yini ngesizathu but yeah lokusho ukuthi ke lawo ma disputes lawa la tacklishwa ombudsman bethu and ngekubuka kwami mine kusipha ngathi indlela lephelele ukuthi uma ngabe sikhuluma ngema financial services emakhasimende ethu akhona la angakhala khona. Ngilithanzile lelikhulunyiswe yi-Central Bank ukuthi bayazama ngatonke indlela ukuthi bangavumeli ukuthi bameli babe khona kube mhlambe kune representative yasekhaya kutosita ukuthi labantu abakhuluma kube lova ukuthi lomnye semkhulu kunalomnye sekukhona la ngakuva bakhona la ngeke khona kusho. Sangena ke ka CMAC lapho kunye khona Nsindiso Thwala wakhuluma ngayo indzaba yenzima ledlalwa nguye CMAC uthi ingena uma sikhulumisa budlelwane bemcashi loqashiwe. Lo ngukhanzile mine loku lebengakwadi ngilokho ukuthi uma ngabe unesikhalo ngendlela yokucasha awukawuthola umsebenzi unalo lungelo as an applicant ukuthi ungaletha isikhalo sakho kaSIMAC batakulela kepha abantu labavumelekile ngwelo yolocashiwe kanye nemcashi kanye nalabo labamelele disability. Ngithanzile ke nalokho ukuthi ngoba namhla sitokukhuluma ngepower of service uthi CMAC nema office lang 8 and lokho kusho ukuthi kune decentralization lendiwa nguCMAC etha lawo services akhe ebantwini labangemaswati. Nalokho ukuthi ke sivile lokuthi ya encourage akuthiwa encourage ngesizathu yakhuthatha uthi dilimto timbidi senjetiswe siswati nesingisi nemafomu shido ombuds of Central Bank uthi aya kuvumele abakhona iswati newesingisi kanjalo sima lokho kuyangikhombisa mina ukuthi eSwatini siyazama thine singema regulators kanye netinkampani tahulumende ukuthi lwati silethe emaswatini webete futhi lesimvalela ngaphandle. Ya consumer protection siyasikhuluma ngekuthi kukhona bo vulnerable consumers lapho khona kufuna sibuke ukuthi akusiwo umfloti asati singisi akusiwo wonke umfloti awadi kusebenzisa bongcondo womshini ufuna ke ukuthi uma ngabe ukhulumisa abantu ubuke ukuthi ngabe niyevana yini delanishiya nakhona. Competition Commission naye ukhulumile ngeconsumer protection ukuthi i-system ye-alternative dispute resolution iyasita ukuthi ilethe ema-services o-consumer la cheaper futhi la safer anjalo futhi ayasheshisa. Ngithanzile i-definition ya-consumer ukuthi ifaka wonke umuntu lothengako connect kude lembekela ngaphandle. Lokho kumcoka kithi ngoba noma ngabe ungisomabhizinisi noma ngabe ungithishela noma ngabe ungiregulator noma ngabe ungibani ngalenyanga udawungena esitolo usho ukuthi Competition Commission ikhona la wena kulelo hlangothi. sangena kaSwasa babevilane wakhuluma ngema standards. Siyabonga ukuthi sekutoba ne mark of approval ngathi noma seyikhona noma iseta. Kakhulu ngithandzelo ukuthi sekutoba nema tests ekuhlola ukuthi okusemakethe kungilokhu ekushiwo ukuthi kungiko yini. Kulesikhathi lesi nje kuyamangalisa ukuthi kungendeka kube nema sanitizers letelo 60% ngoba kusho ukuthi siyadithela nje sidithela ngemandi. Siyabonga ukuthi iswasa ukhona la dodla inzima lemcoka. Kuyasita futhi ukuthi siyabona ukuthi consumer welfare itawundlondlobala la Swatini. So long dot indlela ukuthi we are doing customer service and we are bringing services to eMaswati. Nalokwe ukuthi iswasa uyazama lo ukuthi abese so involve iMinistry of Health uma ngabe kufuna ukuthi kube ne regulation lethide ngoba njengoba shilo bona batele ukuthi batokhulumisa emazinga eSwatini. IRDM Dr Museka ukhulumile kakhulu ngidawu highlighta nakhona ngidawuthi nje lapha into letithide lengikhanze ukuthi timcoka kakhulu. Ngiyathanza lemigomo lesebanayo futhi lebatshela ukuthi batayenda mayelana nekokuthi ukhulumisa ukuthi senine nifuna kwenda i-Customer Service Professionals Association lapho khona bantu labaletha ema-services eSwatini batawuhlangana bakhulumisane ukuthi ngabe basebenzisana njani. Cabanga ukuthi lokho kuyavula emehlo ethu ukuthi kumcwa kanganani ukuthi sisebenzisane as service providers ngaleyo ndlela leyo noma ama MOU noma ngawo ama associations now kuze sto khona ukuthi silethe usito ngalokuphelele ku consumers kanye ne customer. Ukhulumile ke ukuthi kumcoka ukuthi understand customer wakho understanding ngendlela yokuthi ukhone kwathi ukuthi idingo takhe noma ngabe angahlakushisela ngalinye ilanga ephasela customer wakho. Ngibonile ukuthi ukhona dolovelile ka Facebook lo akusumuntu ngathi comment uthi lona wekunene kunesizathu sokuthi ke abantu basuke sebayelana makhasini angcondo omshini ukuthi bayo balabanye babona ngazi ukuthi ngilapho khona bavakala khona. Cabanga ukuthi lokho kukhulumisa incaphayi ethi le incaphayi
Thank you, Program Director. Kunama questions lesiwashiya in the last segment. Lengicela sisicale ngawo because ngendeka aphendvulwe ngule case study. Kuna 3 aconzene na Ombudsman lo dila ngetemshwalense. Yekucala ubuta sibusiso ukuthi from an insurance perspective, majority of disputes that arise and make it to the Ombudsman are usually due to misinformation or lack of understanding and information. How does the Ombudsman address or mitigate leyo issue leyo? Angathi noma ufuna kuphendvula noma ngikunike utawashwambakanya. Then yesibili iqhamuka from financial literacy with Mtera Twala. Do the insurance companies that conduct investment services have a separate license for that? Letinkampani lokhanza kusi the insurance depends at the conduct ema investment services. Banayo yini a separate license yale investment noma konke kubukwe phasi kwale insurance? And then lo chakele kulombuto loyo still from Mtera. if one then wants to terminate an investment before maturity, is it normal to get back money that is less than the premiums paid? And if one is not content with that, how can they be assisted? So those are your questions, Ombudsman. Can you then deal with them as well as your case study?
Thank you very much, Program Director. Thank you very much, Program Director. Umbuzo wokuqala uthi ingabe umlamulo wendaba zetimali uyalamula yini egabeni lakhona kutakwendeka lokho ukuthi lekuqaleni ngalesikhathi kusathengiselwa nalolusido lolusamali kwavele nje kwangakhulumeka emaqiniso ngalokuphelele noma emaqiniso aba nglaseceleni misinformation or lack of information. Kuphendula kwethu kutaba kokuthi esikhathini lesinengi letivumelwano talokuthengiselana kwalolusido tibhalwa phasi sisiveke uma sesimpintshwe ngilenswelo yalesidingo salolusido singabe sisawafunza noma sisawafunza lamaphepha ngalokuphelele la le stawugcina sesisayina kule line lelinetigajanyana emadotsi la ngisayina khona ukuthi ngiyakuvuma konke lokulangetulu kwalala ngisayine khona futhi kokube asifunzi siye singede safunza wona lamagama labhalwe ngetinhlavu letinkulu kanzi ngetulu kwaloko kunananga labhalwe ngetinhlavu letincane lesithi silungu i-fine print kuba nenkinga yekwekuthi ungete waba nabo lobufakazi nyalo bekwekuthi wangedukisa. I was misinformed. I was not or this product was not explained to me appropriately. Ikakhulu kwekuthi ukhone kukusho lokho against nakulokusayinele imvama la usuku usayine khona usuke uvuma ukuthi kuchazwe wenela wena so nakube umlamuli wetindzaba tetimali angayenda imtamo yekufuna kulamula kude la ngabe soyakwakha kude uveta kwekuthi uqinisile kulokukhuluma ngemlomo kuphela kanzi kukhona lo akusayinela phasi kuloko lo akusayinela phasi akuvumelana kufakazelana nalokukhuluma ngemlomo insayi yake iba lapho to the office of the ombudsman in helping mitigate any instances of alleged misinformation or lack of information. Bese umbuto lomunye ubekwe ukuthi kuleto tinkampani letisuke titemshwalense kodwa setiphinze tiniketa lusito noma tithengisa ama products la investment banema license lehlukene yini ngidawuthi lama license afanele kuthehlukane ngoba lama products ehlukene ngoba nangekhathi ehovisi lemlawuli i-Financial Services Regulatory Authority vele letigaba the divisions anako lokwehlukana vele ngileyo naleyo product ibukwa ngeliso layo nako konke lokudzingekile kuze kwekuthi umuntu agunyadwe kwekuthi ayithengise noma ayinikete eziveni lama licenses afanele ukuthi ehlukane ngaphandle nje kwekulasikhathi ngange kwekuthi kuyendeka uthole ukuthi kunelibhange leluswe lilawulwa ngumnzoli wemaswati kodwa kusebenta kwalo kune product lelithengisako lelawulwa i-Financial Services Regulatory Authority as an insurance corporate agent libhange kenyalo litayidzinga le license yale insurance product ngicela ungikhumbule kulo wesithathu ke
uma kwenteka ngiterminate investment yami kungafika isikhathi le mali ngitfolako leba yincane ilungile yini nangabe ngalungi nisitana njani ningi-ombudsman
nakube singeke sikhone kuphendula ukuthi ilungile noma ayikakalungi kodwa ke babukeli nebalaleli abazivumele lokho ukuthi ekuphenduleni kwethu asibeke naku siphawule sithi sibokwati kwekuthi laba basebhizinisini yekwenta imali nabo Kwesibili sifanele sisive semaswati noma sisive lesiphilako even laseSwatini ngokuthi sitihluphe ngekutifundisa nathi ukuthi sati ukuthi yini lento lesiyithengile. Uma ngabe nje ngifakile imali ngekuthi ngiyayitshala ngigadze ematfoli kude indlela yekwekuthi lolo umnikile kokuthi akayitshale le mali naye uye uyitshala embili akananzimi la kade ayitshala khona nje la kakhe kuphela nakhona lela ayitshala khona kunemigomo nembandzela thite lekumele kwekuthi ihloniphe isikhathi ngoba njengako konke lokhona endalweni kude nje lokuthi kuvela namhla sekuyakhona kona kudalana kwanze ngekuphuthuma ngekucwabita kweliso tonke tindvo tikhona ukuthi tikhule njengoba nawe nje waba mncane mawutalwa kuthethe lichi kwekuthi kumbe ungathuke sowukhona kwenda lolo kwendako sikhathi simcoka ekukhuliseni yonke into ledzinga kukhula. Ngakho ke uma utawuthi wena bovumelene nabo kwekuthi ngitayifaka le mali yami iminyaka lelishumi akukapheli nalemthathu soyalanza lesikhathi sekukhulisa kule minyaka lese imithathu sesilimele. Kwesibili nabo banetindleko labangena kito uma baye utshala embili ngoba abanansimu la kibo bayutshala kulabanye la bayawutshala khona. So lokwekuthi igcine sekumbe ingasalingani nalobo yifaka kwekucala konga nekutshala imali ngema products lehlukene kwawona lawo nje akufananwa. So le tincabekelwane talokuphila kugcine kukhula kufika esigabeni lesitakuthakasisa nawe atifanani futhi. So kungendeka kube kufaka ekhathi leto tindvo leto savings, investments, insurance, these things are very very different one from the other. Each one of them has their respective or have their respective underlying principles that inform the substance of the product and how you actually get to whatever gets to be promised at the point of sale between the seller or the provider and the customer or the consumer.
Thank you, Ombudsman. Ngethemba, our audience has been catered for. This portioning layer case studies, Ombudsman. Can you just take us through a case study? Kuleyo case study would demonstrate how you've applied the ADR in Sitenjan customer and how does that uphold excellence in customer service and protection, of course.
Asibonge mholi wehlelo. Ngingeke ngiwasho mabito ebandfu kodwa nje angiqale la ekutheni thine what we termed conciliation at first may not necessarily be the same with conciliation process within CMAC. Umuntu uma kwendeke wefika liqobo lwakhe office lethu abika indzaba singabona kwekuthi we do have a jurisdiction over this matter that the person is reporting. What we do is we simply pick up the phone and raise the attention of the person against whom they are reporting or complaining to us and alert them. In kulamanye ma cases sisaphakamisa licingo sithi yesipho nang nondumiso ula uthi sipho uthi hawu so lapho nondumiso ngicela nimtshela buye ekujikeni akaphinza abuye nondumiso sisuke sesibasitile ngaleyo ndlela leyo just as quickly as that, just at the stepping over person and we pick up the phone and we speak to the other party. Bese ke kulokunye what we term facilitation lapho nakhona sisuke sesitenedisile ukuthi sinawe magunya ukuthi singayilalela lendzaba sibasite noma simsite lolotile office lethu. What we then do there is suke la ekuphakamiseni lucingo kungasiti bese sithike kithi akamana sigcwalisele liform lo lota ute ukhala kithi. That's the aspect of minimum formality that we are doing. And siyesigcizelele ukuthi mane ulifungele le form lesicaphele lapho asifuni ukuthi bantu baninzane ngelidzaka bonane through our processes ngekwekuthi ende an allegation of things that are not true. So sithi kufungele lokho so as to demonstrate a conviction to the truth of what you are alleging. Then what we then do is kuba ngithi laba lababhala incwadi sibhalele lo lokukhalwa ngaye simcele ukuthi akabuyisa imphendvulo. Sikwendelani lokho? Sikwenda ngaloko ukuthi lel office letfu libekwe ngumthetho sive nemabhizinisi atawulihlonipha. Kulokunye utawutfola ukuthi njengaloku kumbe uvakele naku umlingani lo se emzoli emabhizinisi they don't take serious their clients or consumers or customers, and they don't apply due diligence emsebentini uma banaka letikhalo tabo. So thina sibasita ngalokho kube ngithi laba babhala incwadi labacela lemphendvulo kuloyo lomsitile lasakhala ngaye nyalo, and ngaleyo ndlela leyo silamlela lo client noma le consumer ekwekuthi kube lula kuye kwekuthi ayitfole lemphendvulo ahlonipheke ngaloko ukuthi the respondent now actually respects the process from the office than some of them they respect their clients, which would be unfortunate. So sibasita ngaleyo ndlela ukuthi tibhalwa ngithi letincwadi so baphendvulana through our offices site kwenda siciniseko sekwekuthi nale information ayilahleki. Lokunyeke uma ngabe siya ku facilitation uma sebaphendvulene sibona ukuthi khona lithuba lekuthi bangakhulunyiswa labantu, then we use that information that we would have obtained from their exchanges to say asenihlale phasi sibakhumbute lokho ukuthi each one of them has a particular interest in their relationship. Ngalesikhathi sibakhumbuta uthola ukuthi abantu bayabona ukuthi yathi sayadzingana la akungeke kusite kuhwebhana nekufulathelana bagcine sebagcina babona ngasolinye. Ngingathi nje kafishane kuleti ndlela letiningi la khona sisita khona labo labasuke bathole lisito labanetikhalo nalabo labasuke babanike lo lisito nguleto. Simelane, siyabonga.
Thank you Ombud. Kunembuto lokhona ukuthi soloku nikhuluma ngemigomo nemibandzela, nikhuluma ngemthetho netinkantolo, nine nilihovisi lomthetho nalama documents lasetshenziswako nakusakhulunyiswana nikusebenzisa njani noma nase sikhulunyiswa ngini singafika sivumelane ngendvo lesingazange sivumelane ngaye ekuqaleni noma ngendvo lengavunyelwa ngumthetho just because sesika ombudsman sitawukhuluma. So tisebenzisana njani letindvo lomthetho welive lesinawo lama agreement labawasayinako nalokukhuluma lenisuke nibanike kona?
Uma ngabe ngiyakhona ukuthi ngikuve kahle simelane umbuto waloyo lobutile ngalesikhathi sisenda lendlela to facilitate or conciliate an agreement ku conciliation yethu siphakamisa kucingo kude emaphepha lasuke siwatfolile lapho, but then facilitation sesicela ukuthi igcwalisa form li form lethu ungaligcwalisa the particulars that you would have like put up there, we would be able to use that information throughout all the processes and of dispute resolution methods that we are open to use, because that one is information that you have openly rendered. But in the event then we go through facilitation, or in the event we would maybe go through a mediation, there we don't require an exchange of any documents beyond the ones that we would have like received through the complaint form. And any information, whether by way of documents or by way of expression orally in the course of the discussions, lesiyitfolayo siyayihlonipha iphelela kuleyo process leyo kude engcenye lolo lwati lesuke silitfolile lapho labe sesilusebenzisa khona. Ngoba kithi uma kwentekile nangakhoni kugcina nibona ngasolinye through conciliation, facilitation or mediation, sinalo lethuba lekuthi sigcine sifike esigabeni la sikhokha khona lesijubo thine. Le information ke lesuke ninjinjiselane yona ngemlomo kumbe through conciliation, through facilitation or through mediation, asiyisebenzisi uma sekufika esigabeni sekukhokha sijubo. Siyayihlonipha, we render it very private, and we actually respect whatever that you would have discussed and agreed upon, singakulethi
ku decision yethu ngetulu kwaloko futhi nanoma ngabe kunenteka masiyikhokha I decision uthole ukuthi it is being challenged, it goes to the court. Loku suke sitfole ngalesikhathi trying to facilitate or mediate a possible settlement. Leyo information leyo kude engcenye la siyisebenzisa khona isuke ihloniphelelwa leto tigaba tekudama kokuthi nivumelane uma kuyafeyila kuphelela lapho asikusebenzisi. Unless I may not have gotten the question correctly, ngicela kuphendula ngaleyo ndlela mholi welihlelo.
Thank you, Ombudsman. Tembelihle, this segment is your case study.
Thank you. Just to mention that most of the cases that we deal with are issues of defective goods, or we find that a service supplier is not coming into play in terms of what they agreed with the consumer. So in most cases it's just to provide for compensation to the consumer for the harm or damage suffered or a refund. So with that being said, there is a case whereby a consumer bought a vehicle, a second-hand vehicle, and she paid a deposit, and when she was just driving it, it turned out that it had issues, so she had to tow it back to the supplier, and the supplier didn't want to refund her back the deposit she had paid. So the consumer tried and tried, but the supplier didn't want to assist. So she then came to our offices for assistance, in which case we now utilized our ADR process, whereby we called the respondents and we engaged the both of them. And finally there was an agreement reached, and the consumer was refunded back her deposit because she didn't want to take another car from the supplier. And just briefly, there was also one in which a consumer had bought corrugated irons from a certain shop, and unfortunately within a few weeks they rusted, so which meant they were defective. So the consumer tried to engage the supplier, but the supplier didn't want to refund or give him new corrugated irons. So we tried using our ADR process, but the respondent didn't want to comply with the process, because I think we mentioned earlier that the ADR process is voluntary. So it works only if both parties are coming into play and they have the intention of settling the matter. But this particular respondent didn't want, so the ADR didn't work, which is why we then had to refer the matter to the board for adjudication. So it is now the board that made a binding decision, and fortunately for us, the respondent didn't appeal that decision, so he just refunded the consumer. So yes, so that is how consumers are assisted in terms of our ADR processes.
Thank you, Tembelihle. Ombudsman, your case study segment.
Thank you, Program Director. We have an array of complaints that come before us, ranging from a simple matter where a customer does not receive that satisfactory response at the reception desk, to issues where we find customers complaining about illegal charges or improper charges on their accounts. Sometimes even cases where ATM cards have been cloned, or I think they call it phishing these days. We have assisted. What comes to mind is a matter where a customer had traveled to a neighboring country probably 8 months before, and one morning at around 2 a.m. transactions started occurring in his bank. He was receiving notifications that the withdrawals were occurring in Bangladesh. This is a customer who has never left Africa. So when he woke up in the morning and reported to his bank, it transpired that in this neighboring country his card had been cloned. We were able to sit down with the bank and the customer to sort of reach an agreement that it is not the fault of the bank. Again, it is not the fault of the customer. But again, banks have a duty to inform a customer if, for instance, you are traveling to what we now call hotspot areas, to tell their customers that you must be careful in such an area when you use your ATM card. Try and use your card where there's a bank building rather than where it's just that ATM facility. So we're able to reach an agreement where we found that both parties were liable in the sense such that the customer was not refunded the entire amount, but there was a certain compensation that the bank agreed on and refunded the customer. And then we've also noticed where customers will come, as I have said, the relationship is between a customer and a bank, but sometimes you find that we've had a customer who came and said, my house was sold by Bank X. I'm living in this house. I bought this customer from this house from Mr. A, and then one morning I receive an eviction notice. My house has been sold by Bank X. I don't have a relationship with Bank X. I don't know how my house got to be sold. And upon investigating, we realized that this customer thought they had bought a house from someone, paid for it, moved into it, yet this house had been bonded with Bank X. Now Bank X had moved the application and approached court and everything had been done right. In this instance, we had to sit down and advise the customer that you cannot say Bank X must now refund you money, the money that you paid to that person who sold you that house. You have to go and institute proceedings against that person who sold you the house. So it is important for customers to, before you pay that large sum of money, just I think Dr. Museka and Nondumiswa did say that just do that due diligence on your part. Is this house that I'm buying not bonded with a certain bank? And before you then exchange that hard-earned cash. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Mr. Villane.
Thank you, Program Director. Bengivabatha sesikhuluma ngolimi lakithi. Ngicela ukukhuluma ngalo ngoba basicela ngale kuma platforms. Mhlambe before ngishare the Swasa experience, I think ungaba kahle sengishare nje personal experience lokho ukuthi you know at times singebantu ukhabanga ukuthi siyaye bas intimidate lama service providers ukwenza ukuthi sisheshe give up size siyofika kulama institutions lawa siwa flooding ngetindo mhlambe bese ngathi solve atsine le sisakhuluma nalabantu. I had an experience I think late last year where I bought 2 pairs of shoes. They went by the name of Floshem when I bought them. And then masengithengile lecatfulo thing 2 ngigcoka sinye kuleli viki ngigcoka lesinye kuleli viki lela then ngiyasiphinza lesinye the following week nangithi ngiyasibuka sesihlukanisa isoli ne top naleli sinye sesiyagaduka, so I'll go back to the shop. A friend of mine promises to fix it. I'm saying to my friend, this name in a shoe 2 times in Stogile and you are promising to fix it, not me. I don't even want a second pair, a new one. I want my money back. Because unless you want us to take it to the next level, ukuthi forgery le, but nje ngicela ngiphe imali yami. My boss is not here, this and this and this and that. Your boss is in the country or in Dubai, no, he's in Babane another branch. Give me his number. I called the boss, he becomes impossible, but I ended up leaving the shop with my money. Because I stood my ground. I said, Floshem Shoe, my friend, is something else. And then just last week, I was dealing with an insurance company. I can't mention names. I'm claiming for a lost item following a break in Emotweniam. And then they are closing the case because the item by cabin hall kanzi policy provision it's lendo bekufani bese booty. And then my argument was there are some machines that everyone who shayela imoto in a boot. Mina lebe ngimoto bengabanga yo ivan. Ithi boot. And the case lebe zayivaliwe yavulwa yaba setafuleni I got my claim ngabhadaleka. Ngisho ukuthi some of these things lokho sifundzele tindvo and sithi analyze nathi letinto ukuthi abamgcoka ukuthi sisebenzise. Then going back to the SWASA scenario. Njengoba ngishito ekuqaleni, I think laba kahle ukuthi ngiwaspell out lama standards because every one of us here can benefit from these standards, including the institutions that I'm sitting with in terms of my panelists sitting here today. One of the standards I think as a starting point, ISO 9001 is one standard that as organizations, this is the starting point in implementing the standards for the benefit of our customers first. And then there is one that is specific to service excellence, ISO 23592. ISO 23592. That standard is specific to service excellence. What models, guidelines on how to go about achieving it as an organization. And then there is a standards that are called the 1000 series of standards. The first of which is ISO 10001. ISO 10001, it talks to customer satisfaction. How do you go about satisfy your customers against guidelines and codes for an organization? There is ISO 10002. It talks about guidelines on how then to go about addressing complaints in the event there are any between yourself and your customer. There is another standard, ISO 10003, which talks to guidelines on dispute resolution. How do you go about addressing disputes, be it as an as a dispute resolution provider or as the organization involved in the dispute resolution? And then lastly, I think for today, there is 10004, which is guidelines for monitoring and measuring customer satisfaction. How do you go about monitoring and measuring customer satisfaction? Having said that, I think from an experience perspective, as I said earlier on, as an organization, we're dealing mostly with clients in terms of certification and stuff like that, and some clients who come in for testing. There is this particular client that lets him certify, let's say, for management systems. People have a tendency to misinform customers. You go to a company who can ISO 9001 certified. That is wrong. Because ISO 9001 has certified the process of coming up with the booklet water, not the product. It is not a product standard. So this particular person goes to buy in bulk my hand sanitizers from a management system client ya SWASA. Nakawathenga ubona lo 9001 uthe asengengceka SWASA to check ukuthi lamandla lawa ayamumeter yini lo mgomo walo 9001. Nasifika ke thina singeke understanda kwethu ukuthi ayitho the product testing sayitesta le booklet le hand sanitizers kanza ukuthi i-alcohol content ingephasi kwalele stipulated by law. Sesithi ke thina hey licala phela leli ngoba licala leli asingammemeteli lo lona semtshele sakhe ngoba lona uyithengele ukuthi uyoyi repackage and distribute. Lawyer uyithengisa in bulk lo customer yaswazi. Sithi kulona sicela uyibambe ungayiyo repackage and distribute it because itawubulala sieve. Sinemsebenzi nesingiswasa ukuthi apart from ukuthi nje promote i-trade in terms of competitiveness, sinemsebenzi notice protect the health and safety yesive to make. That's why our logo is improving the life, the world we live in. So because it's when ungasayi go repackage for further distribution and sales, where nage lo nike lo, are you aware ukuthi lento lo mnike yona lo muntu I meet standard? And in the pins apart from lo ukuthi kuna source cards, kuna SAPS. SAPS is a memorandum of understanding naye. Siphinde simthinze yey customer lakho lana lithengisa na product naye le kanje athi SAPS asenilesela kithi naye out netisa kanze sivele ayiwa meet. But kukhazakala ukuthi lo at fault akusuye lo local distributor. Ngilaba supplier ko ngale. Bela bafaka le timbeje. I think i-competition commission siyifikisile lenzaba mhlambe seyike yavela noma isengavele sayi report ukuthi sekuna problem naye. Saphize nemisofel sayi-engage because in a potential yokubhubhisa live. But what has happened is that basivile bobabili umile lo kuthi angachubeka yo ibhoklisha yo distributed tolo nalona wema kuthi achubeka ithengisele labanye whilst we are in the process of addressing the issue. But khona lo tawuboshwa ngalesikhwahlande as a result of lokho, but we were able to address le customer lelifike kithi latos khulumisa ngalenzaba. So this is just one of the examples how we have dealt with such issues, disputes and complaints.
Thank you, Mr. Vitt. There is a quick question for you, ukuthi ingabe lama standards lobo washo atfolakala kuphi so that in case umfbam is informer a connect verifiable.
Ngidawucala ngeke ukuthi in our website as SWASA, go website yethu www.swasa.co.za. Ku website yethu utawukhona kubona tinkampani lesicertifyile. Lokusho ukuthi anyone lotawufika athi uSwasa certified longekho ku website yethu usigang leso. Uthi certify yena. So ku website yethu utawukhona ke kubona nonaba laba certifyiwe naba laba certifyiwe. That is the starting point. Then ema standards, any standard losifunako emhlabeni noma ngabe sani dasithola kaSwasa. So your first point of call ngiswasa uthi ngifuna standard seluju, ngifuna standard semanti, ngifuna standard se peanut butter, ngifuna standard se orange, ngifuna standard se anything. Contact SWASA utasithola. But ke lokuthi ke utati verifyela anga understand ke le question ukuthi isho kuthini sing that verifyela, because if verification may be in the form ukuthi I need to subject this product to a test against lama specifications like the standard. So if I am to subject that, the best ukuthi uye ku laboratory le accredited, because ungendeka ukhanze sesiyetingandolo, so e laboratory le accredited ukhanze athi I report yabo iyema engandolo, because I accreditation is more of an assessment of competence to perform a certain task. So now that verifyela wena SWASA angakusita kwakunciphise lo msebenzi in terms of conducting the tests. Where we don't have the capacity to do the tests, we know we have relationships with the laboratories in the region that are accredited, and because some of these tests can come at very high cost. But now my management systems, as in Shito earlier on, just go straight to the website. Even if Lomuntu claim to certify on SAPS, or even the product in a Magia SAPS, go to the SAPS website, find certified clients, utawuchole list. No manga to certify on body lamhlaben. Go to that body's website. You are able to pick as a first point of a kind of intervention before you can take it a step further.
Thank you for that. There is also a follow-up question to Ombudsman on the initial question Yasbusi, so misinformation at the point of sale insurance. The follow-up question on the above, I'll make an example with intermediaries who sell products. Who regulates the information they provide to clients? That is the first question. Then the second one, a broker will be more commission-centric, looking to earn as much commission as they can from the client. Is there a regulator where they can be reported to protect the public? That is the second question. Then the last one is, due to the lack of understanding by the public, an intermediary can sell an insurance policy for a premium of 500 monthly with an escalation to a security guard, knowing they will not be able to maintain that product. So I think it all goes back to misinformation at the point of sale and how that is dealt with.
Thank you, Program Director. Thank you, Program Director, for the question. Sibonge lo buta lembuto nekulandzelela. Ngicela kuqala nganayi sigaba. I think were there 4 questions about the third one. I think le buta ngekuthi kukhona yini lisango la kungabikwa khona maybe agents and brokers or laba luswe khona. There's an office in the country, the office lemlawuli, the Financial Services Regulatory Authority. Siyasebenzisana nalo ngoba nathi sakhiwe emthethweni we Financial Services Regulatory Authority Act. So kutiphatha kwalaba labathengisa lolusito lolusamali kweluswe kulawulwa kuphinze kubukwa iFSRA. So iFSRA ngiyo lele ngiyona kubikwa khona lokuluhlobo lwekusebenta lokungahloniphi tinqubo letibekwe ngiyo. Kule sigaba sa le misinformation la kufike kubambe khona ngidabuyela emphendulweni yami yekucala lokwekuthi phela uma utane kukhala ukhala ngalomunye kusebenta kwethu kweluswe ngilama principles lenkenga wabekisa ekucaleni, principle of reasonableness and principle of fairness. And kuze umuntu atewuthi lenvo kungendeka kube yendeka noma ayizange yendeka kuba mcoka lokuthi ubulethe lobufakazi lobutawenetisa lolongati lutho nalobeka ngekho lapho. Ngishito lokuthi ibese ibamba la ekutheni uma sekutawubhalwa phasi kuvunyelwane kuthengiselwana kune maphepha la sayinwako and kunalamagama labhaliwe kuba lukhuni vele. Kulukhuni ke futhi kusho lokuthi ingabe vele wamthengisela amtshele lokuqiniso noma lokungasiko uma kude lokubhaliwe kanti khona lokubhaliwe lokutawufakazela lokho kanti khona lokubhaliwe lokufakazela lokulose kuyinkinga nyalo. Even la kangwane ngidawuthi sisese asikho esigabeni la khona maybe the guidances, the guidelines, the codes of conduct again asaphelele. Kodwa umuntu angakhuthatha sive kwekuthi iwebsite ye-FSRA for instance inawo ngidawuthe instruments tindvo tsite leteluse kusebenta kwema agents, brokers nabo bonke lalabathengisa lusito lolusamali. Kwanyalo ngeke ngisho ngeliqiniso kwekuthi ikhona inleluse kwekuthi ngalesikhathi kusathengiselwa nalolusito akubhalwe phasi lokuthi lokukhulumisana kwenu kunekwelulekana financial advice that was rendered to the consumer kuthini ngalendlela yokuthi sive asikutayele kwekuthi uma sitawusayina asicele icopy yalokulesikusayinele nanoma ngabe ungalitfolike lithuba lekwekuthi ukufunze ungisengakusayinele umane ute uhambe uhlala phasi so uhlala phasi ekhaya ukufundzisise ukuconze ucele nekusitwa ngumuntu ukuthi akwende ukuthi ukuconze sikhathi sisesifishane kwekuthi ungabuyele emuva uthi wena wekunene ungathi la ngidikhanze ngivuma lengafanele ukuthi ngikuvume ngicela sibhidlite lobudlelwane ngisale ngiyekela
Thineke uma sesi kufike lendzaba kithi ku reasonableness na fairness kunangu sibonelo lesendeke ekugcineni kulombuto ekugcina kwekuthi ungathengisela dzadzewetfu noma umnaketfu kumbe lo gadzako akungeke kube kuthi ngilogadzako kithi sitawutihlupa kwekuthi sigaba sekuqondza kwakhe tintfo angaba ngilogadzako angaba ngilongagadzi so that we don't associate bantfu labagadzako maybe with a certain level of mediocrity or kungete kwaqondza tintfo immediately but tintfo letifaka ekhatsi kukhula kwemuntfu kwekuthi unganani sigaba sakhe empilweni lokubuka kwekuthi lento lomthengisele yona iyatihlangabeta intidzingo takhe to establish i-suitability yale product ngalesikhathi athengiselwa siyakwenta kukubuka lokho kodwa ke nakhona kude lokunye lokutasita ngaphandle kwekuthi letintfo letibufakazi tichamuke ngakulolo wathenga naye lolo wathengisa sicele kutibona kukhombisa kwekuthi kuhlonishiwe kwanakwa kwekuthi le product le service lesithengisako is it suitable for the person that we are selling it to. Again, I will seek if even in your understanding I have addressed the concerns that were raised by Ms.
Yes, I think the comment coming through iyak address because if ngikuva kahle indzaba iqala ekuthenini nabavumelana bebavana yini ukuthi bavumelana ngani, and that is something yotayitfola either in lama documents labawasayinile noma nan-applya lo fairness ngekukhulumisana kwalabantu. So I think tasi addressa lesikhalo, but I will encourage Sibusiso to follow up if anayo follow up.
Thank you.
And then I would like to go to the good doctor now on his case study segment. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Considering that we deal with quite a number of institutions, I'll try to be generic. We've got cases where we get into places where there's a disclaimer that once you buy, you don't come back. Just take it and you go. And a personal experience is I bought a modulator to play in the car. I was going down to Manzini. When I got into the car, it was not working. I went back to the shop, and then some testing was done, but I didn't understand the kind of testing that was being done. And then I was told, now take this one, don't come back. I only played it down Malagwa, and on my way back, it was no longer working. So we meet such issues. We also have cases where people sit down and then they come with brilliant ideas on how to service their customers, but then the implementation is wrong. I'll give an example. You walk into a shop and then suddenly someone is following you. You turn right, someone is following you. You turn left, someone is following you. You ask yourself twice, what does this person want? Does the person think that I'm going to steal or something? It's a concept gone wrong. It's basically a meet and greet concept that says be at the assistance of the customer. When the customer wants help, you should assist. So by the time you get to an item, you touch an item, someone just says 50 rand. And then you look at it, it's a very good concept which says meet and greet the customer and be there for the customer. So where is this concept going wrong? The person has not introduced themselves to you to indicate who they are and what they are doing. Because if you just start following me, at times you then even decide to walk out because you're saying already they're suspecting that I'm a thief or something. So we have got so many cases where there is something that needs to be implemented or something that they've come up with, but the implementation is very wrong. We also have got cases where people migrate to technology. And when they migrate to technology, the concept that they introduce technologically, you find ukuthi iyabashaya le technology akusasebenzi. Noma ngo WhatsApp umuntu afaka imessage ka WhatsApp sekude lo phendula lakho. So we find those cases. So what we usually do is we sit down and we notice complaints that are coming from people. And as an advocate, we don't have a mandate to push anyone, but we are like a buzzing mosquito. We make noise until you hear us out. And when we are making noise, we are appealing to fellow customer experience professionals to say, we are in the same profession. I am coming in not to shame you, but I'm coming you to see what people are seeing. And should you need any help, I'm also here for us to brainstorm and say, how best can we sort this out? So the issue of technologies is a very big issue. And then also the availability of information. Ukanza ukuthi ikhona the information about a product, but it's not officially coming from the organization. And the organization has been overtaken by events, be it a website, be it a social media, be it anything to speak about their product. And when a person comes in, he's coming in from that perception that they are getting from whatever sources of information that they have. And when they make a decision to purchase, they are making a decision based on the information that is available. So can't the information information from the officially from the organization, and there is a dispute between the two. So this is where we then encourage organizations to say we need to have information on our fingertips, like a button click away. You just click, you have to be available and to be present. Coming back to the issue that we're saying, go would say social media moves very well, very fast. And last year with an incident, without mentioning names, we wanted some displeasure at some lodge, and within a couple of hours, it was a buzz on social media, and eventually they closed shop. So we then come in and say, no, there's no need for you to close shop, but there are ways in which you can treat this. So that's why now we are advocating to say, let's come up with a platform for customer experience professionals to say, let's assist each other where we are lacking, and let's find solutions to all these challenges that we are facing.
Thank you, Doctor. And then my final panelist. I will need you to address a specific segment. We are in a COVID era. COVID has introduced a lot of uncertainties, a lot of absurdities within what we thought we knew. So as a commission, how have you responded to COVID, especially maintaining an effective ADR process amidst all that?
Thank you, Mguni. It has not been easy, especially when you have set your processes legislatively and in terms of guidelines, and you find that just changing those, you don't have that flexibility because they are legislated. You have to go to the legislature. But I think not just limited to CMAC, but I've seen it also in the courts. For the first time we are seeing technology being used even in the courts as well. I was at the industrial court a few months ago where I saw someone who was in England testifying, and I took pictures of it. He was testifying on a matter, and I thought, you would have had to fly this person. Prior to COVID, you would have to fly this person, accommodation costs and all those costs that the person is in the country to come and testify. And possibly maybe the judge says, I'm sick, we're postponing the matter, then you are stuck, you have a problem in an ongoing trial. Now, so this has been the other side of the coin, something coming, a good thing coming from there. Also in terms of disciplinary hearings, I've also participated in a disciplinary hearing where the initiator, company representative was someone in South Africa, a witness was someone elsewhere, and we were doing this virtually. So as CMAC as well, we have had to be forced in those situations to try and explore those situations. We are still trying to whilst we are exploring them, especially in processes of your conciliations, I think they work better in terms of your arbitration. With conciliation, the challenge is that somewhere when you have to sign your agreement and say, yes, we agree, usually you have to be in each other's presence. So we're just trying to streamline those things. But yes, we are definitely exploring and accepting the new normal that we can do some of these processes definitely virtually.
Thank you, Mr. Twala, and thank you to my panelists. We still have questions coming through from social media platforms. We will note them.
I'm sorry, Mr. Smelan, I thought you wanted me to also have a case study.
Yeah, very briefly, Mr. Twala. Very briefly.
Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, I'll try to be brief, but in terms of case study, I'll just want to look at the interaction of CMAC processes with the courts, especially the industrial court, and I think it's quite important as we're dealing with the subject of ADR in 3 levels. We've said conciliation is a mandatory process, and I think with about 21 years from the time we were established, or 20 years from the time we were established, I think we are seeing a good thing, which is a decline in what we call default judgments, because conciliation is the first and most important process. Before you can actually go to court, fanele nithole lelithuba lekulanyulwa ningakayi enkantolo. Uma ngabe anivumelana sekuthiwa awucede manike izindala zombili niyakhululwa. So there's always been that misunderstanding, and you'd hear people saying simakakana madingi, you know, mainly because people of a misunderstanding of the CMAC process of conciliation, that no, it's in a stekta ulamula nangingumlamuli ngide emandla ukuthi I give out a decision. Mine is to only advise the parties in terms of the law and try to encourage them or help them to reconcile or resolve their matter. But if they fail, if I am a commissioner, I only have to issue out a certificate of unresolved dispute, and that one is your passport. You can't go to court without that certificate of unresolved dispute. So it's your passport. In that way, the process process of conciliation is a mandatory process, but the outcome is a voluntary process, because we cannot impose a decision on you at conciliation. So in the past, you'd see the law says that if you fail to attend the conciliation process, we'll issue out a default judgment. Okay, so we have seen a decline in those cases, meaning that people are now understanding that I have to go to that process, but I do not have to accept any proposal for settlement. The second one is on the issue of unresolved disputes going to the industrial court. As I've said, we have tried to have at least 8 offices around the country, and after you have failed at conciliation, the matter is unresolved at conciliation, the matter has to come to the industrial court, which is just, you know, down the road. Now the question becomes, how many cases which are declared unresolved at CMAC conciliation find their way to the industrial court? And that is, you find that, truly speaking, it's only a third. Mainly because if someone is fired, he works at a filling station in Lavumisa, the nearest lawyer that he will find to take the matter to the industrial court is someone who is in Stegi. Otherwise, generally, you'd have a greater choice if you come down to Manzini. So you find that many of the people, just after they've finished with conciliation, they can't take their matter to the industrial court. And we said the process of arbitration, unfortunately, is one that at the moment is one that is voluntary. The parties must agree both in writing. If they refuse, you are left as the aggrieved party with the only option you are left with is just to take the matter to court. And if you don't have the means to do so, then that's the end of the matter. Now, we are currently in the Labor Advisory Board under the Ministry of Labor. It's just currently there's an ongoing exercise to try to review the entire legislation. And one of the things that are really pressing issues are they trying to explore this issue of how far should the arbitration process be voluntary? In South Africa, it's not a voluntary process. If conciliation fails, you go to the next one where it will be an arbitration. And that's currently what we're exploring in terms of changing, trying to see, maybe to say, if someone is in the threshold, says anything, they earn something up to 10,000 a month, for example, I mean, maybe up to 3,000 a month. Maybe those cases would have to be, would not be voluntary. You'd just have to go through a mandatory process, because those are the people who are vulnerable, who care financially, who cannot take those matters up. But people who earn better, they'll definitely have the option on whether they want to go to arbitration or not. So we're still exploring on that. And then lastly is the issue that for those people, because courts, as I've said, they can take 5 years, 10 years for you to go through a trial. What happens to the person whose matter has been declared unresolved, but they are able to take the matter to court, but they still want to go through to the quicker process of arbitration because it has to be done within 45 days. That's about 3 months, concluded within 3 months. When you are in the court, you can make an application, or the court can unilaterally refer the matter back to CMAC for arbitration. So many people are not aware of that, but I will just say, just lastly, in terms of figures, just prior to 2010, when you look at CMAC reports, you'd find that, annual reports, you'd find that in terms of referrals from the industrial court, taking matters back to arbitration, you'd find between 3 in a year, 3 referrals up to 10. But from 2015, we are seeing the courts, when the matters come this side, they take them back to CMAC for arbitration. So we have our hands full, our work cut out for us in terms of saying we are seeing not less than 120, 150 cases that have gone to the court, being referred back by the court, back to CMAC for arbitration. And I think that's a realization, even from the court, that we do need assistance here. We do need the alternative dispute resolution process to help us in terms of addressing the backlog of cases in the courts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Twala, and my apologies for almost shutting you out. Thank you to my panelists. Thank you for very insightful discussions. Thank you for your case studies. There are still comments coming through. We will coordinate with our technical team behind the scenes to have them addressed through your cooperation, of course. I will return the platform to my program director.
Thank you, Sipho, and everyone. In our program, we had separated questions and answers session from the case study session, but somehow we have done it all. We have addressed questions, and we have also done case study presentations. However, because of time, I'd like for us to not tackle any of the questions, as Mr. Smelane has indicated. We are going to address them on our social media pages and also through our various avenues as we continue to do our beautiful work. At this time, before I close, may I just recognize and offer special thanks to the operational team. I'd like to mention specifically Ms. Londiwe Kwabe and Thandwa Maphalala, who are working behind the scenes. They've been very instrumental, and they are presently manning our social media sites and the ones who are forwarding the questions to us. I would also like to thank the respective leadership of the organizations that saw it fit for this webinar to happen. Dr. Museka, we are grateful for your vision for the Customer Service Week and for the fact that we are able to involve ourselves and be part of such a beautiful initiative as service providers in Eswatini. To the various organizations here today, thank you so much. Inkosi Inanzisele, We are very grateful for your participation and the wealth of knowledge that you have provided here today. I would like to say again, God bless you. At this point in time, ndawucela ukuthi siphinze sivale ngemthandazo njengoba sivulile, and then our deliberations and our sessions will be closed. Can we please bow our heads and pray? Baba Twengwele, kulesikhathi samanje Nkosi sithanda ukubonga wena uNkulunkulu wethu engcwele, silethele ithumo kuwe. Kusise sihambe safika lana. Akukabi ngekuhlakanipha, akukabi futhi nangebuciko bethu. Ngisho kungona ukuthi wena Nkosi uvumile. Siyathandaza ke Nkosi sisahamba. Siside Nkosi sisendleleni yethu. Sabuyela siyosebenza. Usiphe wena uNkulunkulu wethu engcwele macebo ekuthi ngabe sitawuchuba kanjani umsebenzi wethu. Siphephise ke Nkosi, usiside Nkosi sihambe endleleni. Siphephise nalabo lesibathandzako kulesikhathi lesimadima esiveni sethu. Lokho siyacela Nkosi ngeligama lika Jesu Kristu. Amen. Thank you very much.